Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Multi Unit Operators Podcast, your one stop AI resource for scaling multi unit businesses. I'm Abhinav, founder and CEO of Peoplebox.ai, and in each episode, we bring you some real world stories on how operators are using AI to run and scale their franchises. My guest today has been building and scaling operations on the ground using AI and technology to solve real operational problems. Please welcome Harish Upputuri. Harish, great to have you and thank you for making the time to speak with me.
Thank you, Abhi. Likewise, it's been an honor to join this broadcast. So thank you for inviting me on this.
Awesome. Harish, what's interesting is that you didn't come from the QSR or franchise world at all. In fact, your background is in technology. So tell us about yourself and how you got into franchising.
It's a bit of a interesting journey, I would say. So you're right. I come from a technology background, so primarily consulting. I did work with Big Four consulting. It's been for 19, 20 years now. So I work across a wide variety of industries, be it financial services, manufacturing, so supply chain, so banking and capital markets, wide variety of industries. When it comes to the franchising business, I never thought that I would be a franchisee. I saw an opportunity here, when I actually met one of the franchisor brand called Savvy Sliders. So I did taste the product, and then so instantly so it just clicked me because the product is actually pretty good. The concept that ready to make an order, which means that so everything serves fresh. So because now you look at it from a customer mindset, so they wanted to eat healthy, right? So eat fresh. So I became a fan of the food. Then eventually we had several conversations, and then it just turned out to be I became a franchisee.
Awesome. In fact, I have tried Savvy Sliders in the MUFC, and I must say that I fall in love with that. So, Harish, tell us a bit about your operations. Like, what brands are you running? How many centers you have?
I've started my first franchisee, so late last year in November. It was one of the primary location based out of Southfield, Michigan. It's been doing pretty well. Based of that success story, so we've started off with another franchise. It's in the final stages of so opening. So we are in the last leg of getting the city inspections done. So it's going to be open in let's say the 2 weeks from now.
Fantastic.
So
Congratulations, Harish, for becoming a multi unit operator, and all the very best for the second center opening. So, tell me, as an operator, what does a typical day actually look like for you?
everybody thinks that running a restaurant is like as easy as like collecting cash. It's not like that. It's a marathon story at the end of the day. The typical operator had to deal with both front office and back office. So our typical restaurant operation starts with the typical scheduling. So a store starts with their shift schedule, right? So we have a business operations. We measure everything: the performance of operations, performance of sales and COGS. So every cost component will be tracked through on a weekly basis.
And Harish, I know that running a restaurant or running one location is hard enough, but I want you to tell our audience that what is the hardest part of running multi locations that people usually don't see from the outside?
It's very interesting question that you asked. Running even a single restaurant is actually, people think that it's not challenging. I would say that running a single restaurant is easy enough to not to lose more money, right? So if I think about it, running a multi-unit restaurants, if you don't have a discipline of,
Yeah.
right, so having a good control of our operations, then we are completely blindsided, right? So so as I said, running a restaurant is a marathon. We don't have any time to really look at the financial metrics of it. We don't have a so time looking at the different aspects of the business. So when you scale, I tend to so disagree with a lot of franchisers on so if not having the tools and technologies for a multi-unit operators, for them to actually see scale and grow, then it's very difficult to manage the operations. If you are a multi-units, you got to have a discipline around operations, starting from a labor, starting from a food cost of good procurement, and then also the sales, right? So you got to take care of all three dimensions.
Fantastic. And Harish, since you talk about technology and our entire core for this podcast is about AI and technology, let's just go jump into that. So, before you start using AI, tell me what were the most sort of repetitive tasks that ate majority of your time? Was it hiring, scheduling, reporting, customer stuff, or something else?
Yes, so start from an end-to-end process, right? So where we have a lot of repetitive activities, where we would like to have these automated, right? So start from hiring, because since we are in from a hiring industry, right? So at least from a people box standpoint, we would like to have a constant process of identifying the best resources to be coming on a board. The cost of hiring is actually, so it's is kind of a bit high, when I say cost of hiring, because it also includes the component of training the people.
Got it. And during your journey, right from when you thought about opening your first franchisee and then taking it off the ground, running it, what was the moment where you saw and thought that hey, there got to be a better way to do that? I come from a tech background. Why don't I use some technology or AI to solve this in a better way?
AI would be in a position to really solve some of the core complex and repeatable issues, right? So where in which operators tend to spend maximum amount of time doing the
Mhm.
core repeatable processes, as opposed to focusing time to addressing the customer penetration. Let's say, so I wanted to, so just give an example of, like, I didn't have a time. If I would have a time, my manager or my AGM to focus on bringing a new clients, bringing a new customers from the catering orders, just generates more revenue. So than just spending time on labor schedule, okay, so inventory counts, right? Because so the staffing issues, maintenance issues, all of that. I'd like to see that, are we in a position to effectively manage our shift schedule that has an impact on payroll? Are we
Yeah.
really so low or high in terms of meeting a demand? I would want an AI to basically forecast, right, so how many labor hours that I need next
Mhm.
3 to 4 weeks to effectively plan my shift schedule. Right now it's all rudimentary, it's just a best guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week I did 24,000, this week I'm expected to have 30,000, therefore let's add, like, it's more waterfall model, right?
Got it. Got it. So let's talk a little bit about your hands-on experience or actually using it in the business.
So as I come from a tech background, right, so I'd like to have the people to so just use more of an automated tools to manage the business. I'd wanted my GMs and AGMs to be trained on AI, not to
Okay.
use the conventional models of how we manage our day-to-day business. I try to use the AI, so to, namely, pretty much everywhere, right? So I created a demand schedule, so I asked the teams to use the shift schedule based of the projected sales, and then people are still, so falling apart. They're still going through the conventional ways of doing it.
How did you actually, not just yourself, since you mentioned that you come from the technology background, so it obviously must have come a little breezy for you, but as you mentioned about your staff, be it a GM or AGM, how did you like sort of show them the value, and was there any wow moment when they looked at it and say wow, that is not something we had expected?
So the wow factor was there when we they show the value of AI and forecasting, so of a shift scheduler. So AI was able to predict the historical patterns of, like, how
Hmm.
much for sales in the past is actually, the translated to the future forecast. So we were kind of doing that analysis. The results has been pretty closed as like a 90 to 95% accuracy in terms of
Wow.
so projecting the future sales demand based of the past historical patterns. So this is something that excites some of the operators in the franchise, so that actually so make them to use even more AI based tools, right? So okay, so we're just doing the labor planning based on the historical sales. Can I just use this is more beyond that? Let's say, maybe, the customer reviews automated to that, or can I use more CRM tools? Different ways of doing that, but we're just doing more of a crawl walk run. So far we've been able to address more of using AI to the do the demand forecasting.
Got it. And Harish, like again, a lot of our audience, they do not come from the technology background, and they might be wondering that, hey, Harish comes from consulting and tech. It probably must have been very handy for you to go and build it. How hard it is from somebody who doesn't come from the tech background to go and build it themselves and then use it in their day to day life.
It's not necessary that an operator go and then build a technology for themselves. I would think that there are the tools out there in the marketplace. For
Hmm.
example, Peoplebox, right? So not many people are aware of that. So the Peoplebox being one of the pioneer in hiring, so labor talent in the
Okay.
marketplace. So at least the level of screening that the people box does, right? So from one level to another level, it actually saves a lot of time for an operator, right? So because now we, for example, I just place an ad in, like, say, Facebook or Indeed. I've just flooded with, like,
Hmm.
hundreds of thousands of profiles. Some of them, we are even just reaching out directly and then say, why can't you hire me? There are repetitive messages, all of that.
Yeah.
So they don't understand the magnitude of changes that what we are going through, how many profiles that we receive. Suddenly people have certain expectations. So we want to have that guardrail, at least to have these processes to be, the quantified or filtered in a one level of the what we call, like, perform an assessment by the AI by looking at the screen. I've received a profile score, like, say, I'm asking for a, the front desk back office operations, and then the people come from a, altogether total different industry with no relevance whatsoever. So which means that, do I have to really go through each and every CV to look at the profile, or can the AI is smart enough to just to figure out and then just to take the screening, so that way I don't have to, so look at the 50 or 100 CVs by myself. So this has been
Absolutely.
a consistent and common pattern that I've seen it. So now, can I equip my GMs and AGMs to use those AI technologies? So this is where I think that, as an industry or a technology entrepreneurs, we need to come together and then just make sure that, so we have a proper handshake and then have a right tools and trainings. So we need to bridge that gap, making sure that, so technology and industry align together.
Absolutely, Harish, and thank you so much for helping us do that, because that's exactly what we are trying to do here with the multiunitoperators.com. Now, coming on to the impact of using AI. So you have been doing this for many months now.
Mhm.
Tell our audience, what's the biggest difference it made? Is it time saved? Is it cost? Is it sales? Is it something else? Is like, are you okay to share any numbers or any quantifiable difference that the use of AI has been able to made in your business?
It's still evolving. So I would say that so far, from my experience, I've been using AI for a wide variety of things. So one is as a shift schedule and labor management. Another one is that, so I'm basically using AI month to month basis to close my, restaurant books,
Oh,
especially,
wow.
we've been automating both sales and costs, but any indirect expenses that just comes through the bank statements, I'm using the AI, Claude, and chat GPT, so those technologies to, the scan or the vendor receipts and make sure that, so those entries are not, so properly, so translated into full financial statements. So at the end of the month, I would like to see that, hey, what's my profitability look like, what's my cost as a percentage of the sales, be it the inventory or be it a labor. So I've been using the AI efficiently just because I come from a tech background, but I would like to have the same, a knowledge transition that just, right, so goes into every other the store operators.
Got it. And Harish, for an operator which have a few locations who hasn't started with AI yet, what would be your advice on where should they begin?
I think, in my opinion, it's a responsibility of, the franchisor. Franchisees are like, basically running a restaurant operations, right? So I would think that franchisor as a brand, they need to spend some time and then investments. They need to be stay ahead of the competition, or stay ahead of the, the learning curve, right? So, and they just provide the best customer service and guest experience, and also give best tools and technologies to the franchisees. What I would think is that, so when you adopt the AI, it has to cascade from top to bottom, because the multi-unit operators are running a restaurant, right? So and then they're selling the brands what franchisor basically put that into, the menu, right? So now, so we need to, what I would like to have is that, so the brands should spend some time to coach, train restaurant operators how to use, adopt AI,
Yeah.
and then embrace it. So that's very, very paramount.
That's such a great win-win situation for both the franchisees and franchisors, and it can bring that consistency across all the franchises. No, that's very well said, Harish. So, I want to move to a quick, fun part of this podcast, which is a quick rapid fire. I'm going to ask just a few questions. No time to think. So I should just jump in. Coffee or energy drink?
I'd go with the morning coffee.
What's your favorite AI tool?
ChatGPT.
Awesome. One app that you can't live without.
It's basically Facebook,
Okay.
because so
And
as I'm doing more marketing nowadays, not to just go through the content and then just scrolling through the reels. My intent is to do the marketing on the Facebook.
oh yes, absolutely. You're now multi-unit operator. If you had a magical wand, what one problem you would like to solve through it?
Um, so debt free from the country.
That's very well said. Best advice that you've ever received.
Don't put your stuff into too many directions. The stay focused where you are, and then excel at it.
That is so true. That is exactly what they teach us in Y Combinator as well, Harish. And coming now to my closing part, that was fun actually. I really enjoyed it, and you did very good in the rapid fire. So coming now to my closing question: if every operator watching today remembered just one thing from you about AI, what would it be?
Spend time, embrace the technology, that you excel your sales operations or minimize the cost. Either ways, you are the winner.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's so true, Harish. Again, thank you so much for joining us and being so open about both the wins and the lessons from your AI journey. That's exactly the kind of real talk operators need. To everyone tuning in, thank you for watching. If you enjoy this, subscribe and follow for more operators' AI stories. And for full written story, key takeaways, and a growing library of AI playbooks and tools, built specifically for multi-unit operators, please visit our website multiunitoperators.com. Until next time, keep experimenting with AI and keep building better businesses. See you in the next episode.